I don't think it's any secret to most of us here that our culture over the last centuries has moved through the industrial age, the technology age, and it has created a separation more and more of who we are as we know ourselves and our connection to our natural world. Not probably a surprise to anybody here. And it's something that we now have to prioritize as reconnecting. And that's why in 1970, they came up with Earth Day. That's how that it started in 1970. And it has now become the largest global environmental movement. That's really something, because 70s weren't that long ago. So it has continued to grow and grow because we continue to see more and more of us the need we have to remember our connection to our planet and what we need to act and do and be when we recognize that connection. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Now there is another, Earth Day is April 22nd, so I believe that is next Saturday. But there's another holiday, national holiday that's celebrated in April that has to do with the planet. Does anybody know what that is? We could probably make that work somehow, but Arbor Day? Arbor Day. Yes. Yeah. For Arbor Day. Oh, it's not one that I readily remember until April hits, and then I see it, I'm like, yeah. So if you don't know, Arbor Day was actually started in the U.S. in the mid-1800s by a farmer who recognized that where he lived there were no trees. He used to live in a place that's full of trees, and he missed them. His heart missed them. His soul missed them. But he also recognized how they fed the environment. And for the farmers, it was to create a windbreak to save the soil. And so he started Arbor Day, which actually started much earlier in Europe. Much earlier, like 1500s, they had started some kind of celebration for planting trees. And what's interesting is as I read about it, it's noted that this is one national holiday where we're not commemorating something in the past and remembering and honoring it. We are planting for our future. And I thought that was profound. This is something we're getting together with nationally, recognizing and honoring by planting a tree for the health and well-being, not only of our, but of our humans. So what a great holiday. So I wanted to remind you also of Arbor Day. That is April 29th. Now, the theme for Earth Day 2023 is Invest in the Planet. But they have a slogan, and the slogan is everyone accounted for and everyone accountable. Everyone accounted for and everyone accountable. So when I read this, there was a deep spiritual resonance for me. Because what is it saying? Everyone accounted for means everyone has value, has worth, and has meaning. Everyone. No one is left out. And everyone has responsibility to show up for their part. And unity, we would call this inclusivity or oneness. Because in our oneness, we recognize as individuals, we're not only responsible for our own health and spiritual well-being, but as we recognize as spiritual beings our deep interconnectedness with each other, we're responsible for the collective. Now, I'm not responsible for another person, but I'm responsible for my connection to that other. And then I get to model for the other who and what they are as valued, worthy, spiritual beings, so that they can now connect to others. And then there becomes this amazing and beautiful contagion of awareness of who and what we are, and our deep spiritual connection to the planet that we live on. Because how can that be separate from what we are when it's so integral to our life? There are several saints that I can think of that were very connected to nature, that taught a lot about a connection to nature. Who comes to mind when you think of the list of saints that we know? Saint Francis. Yes, absolutely. Who else? Anyone else? Claire of the CC. Yes. Mother Teresa. Her focus was probably more on people than the planet, but if you're good at your connection to people, you're going to feel your connection to the planet. That's one of the things you can see. Well, there's a couple of others that you may not know as well. That is Saint Francis, Saint Paul II, Saint Teresa of Avila, and Saint John of the Cross also taught and expressed the incredible connection you have to the natural world. But my favorite, and the one I'm going to talk about today, is Hildegard of Bingen. Hildegard. Okay, somebody knows her. If you don't, you will know her by this very short talk. So Hildegard of Bingen was a Benedictine nun back in medieval Germany. Medieval Germany, imagine that time. And she was born to a family of nobility, but she's the youngest of 10 children. And at the ripe age of 8 years old, she was tied to the church. And she was sent to a convent and given to the church as a gift. So for all of you who feel like tithing 10%, be glad you're not in medieval Germany. Now, this was a common practice, but I thought that was a rather fascinating thing. She didn't choose the convent life. But when she came of age, she had a choice, because women had 2 choices then, right? You married and had children, or you became a nun. And she experienced a lot more independence as a nun than she would as a wife and mother in that period of time. So she chose to stay in the nunnery, where she had many, many visions and mystical experiences. She's known very well as a visionary and mystic who had spectacular visions of a greater world, something beyond the physical world. Celestial wonders, that's what they call it. And she shared descriptions of an ordered and divine universe. So she literally had experiences of her consciousness in an awareness of what we would probably call divine order. How, from a spiritual realm, divine ideas can be manifested into the physical realm. And she saw that and she understood it. And because of that, she lived with a tremendous respect for every living thing. But she saw how it was all from a divine source. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? And unity, what are our first principle is there is only God, only the divine, only oneness, wholeness, from which all life springs. Now, there's a slight difference between the creation of, so the second principle, our second unity principle says, first is God is, all there is, and therefore everything, every power in the universe is good. Or we learned a new term for that in our prayer class called life affirming. Because good has a tendency to have the idea that there could also be bad. So one of the ministers, Diane Strickland, she is the minister of Unity of Blue Ridge, said, we changed that word to life affirming. And I really want it. There is only one power and one presence, and it is all life affirming. And we are that. We are a whole perfect extension of that. Therefore, we are inherently whole and life affirming. So we are made in the image and likeness of this original creative source. Nature is the substance out of which its divine emanation took form on our planet. So nature is a part of that single divine creation, but we as humankind have a special ability, because we're created in the image of the source, to create, take those ideas and create and manifest what we choose to experience in this life. We also have free will, so we can miscreate. We can forget. And the spiritual journey is just about remembering. But remembering has to include everything. Because how can we know oneness if we leave some part out? And our planet is a part of that. So back to Hildegard. Hildegard had a profound reverence for nature and our relationship with the earth. She said, every creature is a glistening mirror of divinity. Every creature is a glistening mirror of divinity. We shall awaken from our dullness and rise vigorously towards justice. She was an activist, as much as a female nun could be in medieval Germany. Some limitations, but she overcame quite a few of them. And it's still, you're going to start probably hearing more about her, because as we become more aware of our spiritual connections, Hildegard's teachings and writings are being shared more and more. So she saw Earth as a living organism endowed with the same vital power that animates all form. In her worldview, a beam of sunlight, the fragrance of a flower, the graceful movement of a swan were all participants in the holy course of creation. Everything is a participant in the holy course of creation. She taught her students to pay close attention to the rhythms of nature, because she understood understanding the rhythms of nature allowed us to experience our own wholeness and wellness and sense of inner life, a rich spiritual inner life. Is we're tied to the rhythms of nature. Nature teaches us very much in that way. And there are many, many earlier faith traditions, the earth faith traditions, a lot of what the indigenous peoples who lived on these lands lived so close to nature that it was a very natural expression for them. And we're now seeing bringing back that awareness that they carried for so long, to reintegrate it into our culture once again, so that we can start to remember what wholeness is. Now, that was Hildegard. Let me tell you, this I thought was quite interesting. One of her quotes said, humankind is called to co-create so that we might cultivate the earthly and thereby create the heavenly. To cultivate the earthly and thereby create the heavenly. So in Unity, Charles Fillmore always spoke about heaven. We are co-creators with our creative source, meant to manifest all that is life affirming. And we do that through the substance of our very planet, our very nature, by cooperating, by understanding and cooperating and co-creating in a way that there is no lack. There is just an expression of who we are as individuals and who we are working together as a group. One of my favorites. I could go on and on, but we're going to move on. If you ever want to look her up, she's just got some amazing, right? She actually didn't write anything. She was completely uneducated. She didn't know how to write or read. She gained all her wisdom from her spiritual connection. And it was others in the monastery. She had to connect with the friars to have it translated and written down. And then when she was finally accepted, many of her books were published. And I believe she has one book that is the foundation for all natural herbal medicines. Because she just knew it, she knew. So what about immunity? What does some of our unity founders say? Well, Myrtle Fillmore said this is one of my favorite quotes from her. Nature is surely the glorified face of God. See the beauty about you, and you do see the manifestation of infinite mind. Nature is the face of God. It is an expression of the divine. Now it's funny because I read somewhere that she wrote that she loved being out in nature so much that at one point she was almost accused of being a nature worshiper. I had to think about that a moment and the time she was living in. And remember that in early Christianity, it was unfortunately a time when most of the nature traditions were being negated, right? It was a time when they pushed those all aside and they actually took over some. I think I was just talking to someone here about how they took over some of the pagan holidays and turned them into Christian holidays so that they could incorporate this new religion and wipe out that which they thought was lesser. But wholeness cannot be experienced by negating any part of the whole. It has to all be included. So now we're in the movement of bringing that back in. But I think for Myrtle, she grew up in a very conservative Lutheran family, and so probably this idea of nature worshiper wasn't viewed with a lot of positive reaction. But I thought that was so funny. And there's actually a grove at Community Village that's called the Myrtle Fillmore Grove. And it's the most beautiful place under those trees. Charles Fillmore, in Christian Healing, Charles Fillmore said that intelligence is inherent in every form, animate or inanimate. Even rocks and all minerals have life. We should be speaking words of truth to everything, not only to humankind, but to the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms. And what does it mean to speak to these kingdoms? That you are sharing a vibration of life and connecting with them as a whole part of who you are. It's what prayer is. Prayer is using our words to affirm truth. Nature works intelligently, and we can move forward with hope and with a clear vision for practical, tangible steps we can take to live in harmony with our environment. Still Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity with Myrtle. We can act as a wise and loving parent to our beloved child. So, being aware of, being wise steward and caretaker of our environment is not new to you. It was very prevalent with our founders and a very important part of what we want to revitalize now. So finally, I'm going to share something from Reverend Paul Roach, who's a senior minister of unity in Fort Worth, Texas. He wrote something about coming into relationship with nature. And I just wanted to share a little about what he wrote. Coming into relationship with nature and finding a sense of place in our environment are not luxuries for the special preserve of nature mystics. It's much like our lovely Hilda. This is our work, our joyous responsibility as human beings involved in a larger creation. To acknowledge and appreciate the presence of spirit in the grass growing beneath our feet, in our own place where heaven and earth meet, in the magnificent interplay of the human with the divine. Heaven on earth. It's not just a nice thing to say. It's actually a mission, I believe, to fully embrace our humanness, which includes this amazing, incredible, beautiful planet and all the life forms on it, and to remember and align with the spiritual truths of who we are as a divine being, and the interplay of those is the manifestation of heaven on earth. So, what will you do today, or this week, or this month in celebration and honor of Earth Day? I'd like to suggest and invite you to connect, to practice, and to take action. Connect is the first and most important step. How do we do that? Find something. If you're not an outdoorsy person, maybe you have a plant indoors or a pet, anything that's live and a part of our living planet. And take a moment to pause and to open and to feel a connection with that living being. I am an unabashed tree hugger. Just so you know. So for me to go out and just wrap myself around a tree and love it and say hello, dear friend, is one of the ways that I make that connection. We used to have a saying called stop and smell the roses. Remember? Yeah. Stop and smell the roses. Or the azaleas. Or the begonias, or anything that's along your way, or the earth. To smell the earth sometimes is an amazing experience. Just do something that reconnects you to an awareness of the vibrance of life that's all around you. So that's one. And then practice. Create an affirmation, a statement of truth that really resonates with you, and then carry it with you and repeat it throughout the day and the week and the months ahead. To continue to bring alive for you this awareness. To keep it alive. That's our practice of that connection. And finally, take action. Whatever you are guided, whatever action you can take. I don't know, you can decide to stop using plastics. You can go plant a tree. You can do a neighborhood cleanup or a nature walk cleanup. There are so many things you could do. And I would invite you to go on the Earth Day 2023 website, because they have a whole list of things. And they're a very broad range. So whatever works for you, just pick something and take action. Because it's our movement that creates the energy that's going to bring life back into our awareness in a whole way. So one more quote by Khalil Gibran. And I invite you to just sit back and listen to this, very short, and then we'll move into our meditation. He says, forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair. Beautifully, beautifully said. So we're going to do something a little different for meditation. I have a short video that unity.org put out in celebration of Earth Day. And I'm going to invite you to just sit back and relax. You might want to gently close your eyes, but when the video starts to play, you might want to see the scenes, or you can just listen to the affirmations. Well, I'll leave that up to you. And when the video ends, we'll just go into a moment of silence. If there's an affirmation you can draw from that that you want to carry with you, I invite you to do so. So let's take a deep breath. Feel yourself open, your heart and mind relax.
We gaze upon the earth with peaceful eyes, embracing the beauty of nature. We live in harmony with all creatures as they soar through the clouds or swim through the ocean. We honor the sacred ground we walk on, as every plant, every animal, every mountain, and every river reflect our own divinity back to us.
When you are ready, gently feel the air filling your lungs with breath and life. Let your attention come back to this room, this lovely sacred space. Open your eyes and know you are part of a whole, beautiful, vibrant creation of life. And you are loved. And so it is.
Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are,